Stop accepting poor quality and incomplete repairs. That's going to be the title for this video. And I guess this is going to be my second rant video about something that I see all the time that really bugs the heck out of me. So what we're looking at here is a NuTone IMA 4006 master station. This was manufactured around 1993 or so. It was sent to me by a customer. Surprisingly enough, it had been repaired, he said, just over a little bit more than a year ago, and now he has other and similar problems that he had the first go around. I did a little bit, I haven't taken it apart yet, but I did a little poking around on the back to see what was up because I was curious when it came in, and some of the things I found bother me a lot, and I see it a lot, and I'm going to do a video about it today. The point of this video is he sent this to someone else the first go around who said they fixed NuTone intercom systems, and apparently they fixed it well enough to work for a year, but now he's got other problems with it. And I'm going to show you why that actually happened. So we need to set the stage a little bit so you can sort of get an idea of all of the gyrations that go on up until this point right now. Customer had it in his house since it was new. It developed what sounded like a fairly normal problem that 4006s have. It was humming and buzzing and all of that, and that's all age-related stuff that we have other videos about. He contacted the other place about getting it fixed, and they said they could repair it for him. And then he took it out, packed it up, sent it to them. They worked on it, sent it back. He reinstalled it, and for a year it was fine. And then he woke up one morning right back to where he started. The problem that it has now is directly related to the repair that was done a year ago. Accepting low quality, incomplete, and substandard repairs will cost him time, effort, and money. So let's lay out the time, effort, and money part up until this moment right now. He had to find someone else to fix it. That's me. He talked to me on the phone. He filled out our intercom repair request. We talked in great detail about what was wrong with it and what we would do to repair it. He had to uninstall it from where it was in his house. He had to box it up, find a box, find packing material, box it up, and pay the shipping to send it to me from a third of the way across the United States. And here it sits today. He had to do those same things when he sent it to the other shop a year ago. And now I'm going to show you what they did and didn't do that created the problem today. So you're going to get to actually watch me disassemble it down to the point where we discover what the problem is. So let's get to it. So this is the back of the unit, and these are the exact steps that we go through on every 4006 that we disassemble before we begin to repair. So what we have to do is, I'm just going to sort of walk you through it. We'll remove the support strap. We have to remove the intercom control board from the back of the chassis. So we unplug all of these cables. That one's always kind of hard to get out. And then we will remove the screws that hold the board to the chassis. There are 5 screws. We'll put this board off to the side, undo that cable. Now, we have to remove the cover over the back of the display assembly. This is a piece of copper material that's covered in plastic to insulate it, and it's a shield from the RF noise that the display assembly will make. So we have to do that. We have to remove these little ground wires to get them out of the way. We can unplug this cable and this one down under here because we're going for a board that's underneath the chassis. So we'll unplug that. We have to clip this wire tie, and we have to clip that wire tie, and we have to clip that wire tie over there. We have to unplug the backup battery, remove the screw that holds the backup battery socket board in place, and we'll pull that up. we have to remove these two brackets that help steady the master control board to the chassis. We have to unplug the power connection from the cassette player, and we have to take the screws out that hold the chassis to the back of the faceplate. Now, this seems to go fast because I've been taking apart 4006s. You have to unplug the ground wire from down here and fish it out, and you have to unwrap these other ground wires where they're all tied together. This side on the right is for when you have an expansion module, which he apparently does not, and this one on this side. And then you have to unplug the board that's under the chassis from the master control board, and now we can lift the chassis assembly out. So that's as much work as it takes to get the chassis assembly out, because this is what we want. So let's have a quick review. The customer had a problem. We'll start it from this repair. So the customer noticed a problem after it had been repaired for a year. He found us. He filled out a form. He talked to me on the phone. He uninstalled the master station. He found a box and packing material, packed up the master station, took it, shipped it, I think it was FedEx or UPS to us from halfway across the country. That probably cost him $40 or $45 to do that, and here it is today. And you've seen so far the amount of work it takes to get to this board underneath the chassis. Now, it's not a tremendous amount of board. It's not like we're building a pyramid here or anything, but it's still work to be done at the shop. So for right now, we'll put this aside, and I'll be right back. So this is a one-shot video too. I'm going to try to do this without editing or stopping. So what we want here is this board underneath the chassis. So let's go ahead and take that board off the chassis. And as I was saying earlier that I didn't really finish saying, this may seem to go really fast, but I've been working on and repairing 4006s since they came out in 1986. So it's not my first rodeo. So we'll put this aside, and this is the board we want. So what board is this? This is the primary power supply and amplifier board for an IMA 4006. And on this board, there are a variety of components that fail due to age. And primarily they're capacitors, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 capacitors on this board. And then there are some other parts that should be changed out just for good measure while it's here. This board has had exactly 2 of the 9 capacitors replaced. This green one here and this green one down here. And I can tell you by looking at the values of the capacitors that this one, the big one right here, is the wrong value. It's 33% too small. It's not the right size. It's too small, and it cripples the amplifier in a 4006 when it's too small. And this is what really cheeses me off. You've seen how much effort it is on the customer's part to send a set somewhere. You've seen how much effort it is for me to disassemble the board to get it, or disassemble the master station to get it down to this board that we need to work on. These are the same steps that the other repair shop had to do, and they finally get the board out, and you've got it on the workbench in front of you, and you've got your soldering iron, and you're ready to go. You're going to replace things, but you're only going to replace 2 parts out of 9. Now, these parts, these capacitors, they don't cost a lot. This big one here, this didn't cost $12. This costs $1 maybe $1.25. This one about the same. These littler ones down here, I hate to tell you how cheap those are because you'd probably cry. The point of the video is this is a substandard repair. For all of the time and effort that everyone spent to get it to the first repair shop, and the guy who's working on it spent the time to take it all apart to get down to the board, he only replaces 2 parts. Now I know some guys will say, repair guys, they'll say, well, you know, I tested all the capacitors and only those 2 were bad and all the other ones tested fine. Well, that's a bunch of malarkey. The days of testing capacitors ended 20 years ago. We're not talking about parts that cost tens of dollars a piece. We're talking about parts that cost tens of cents each. And for the amount of effort it takes to get to this board and have it sitting in front of you and being ready to rebuild it, it's another $2 worth of parts to do a thorough and complete job. And then this one isn't even the right part. Nobody should be testing capacitors anymore. I'm sorry, it's not 1965. It's 2018. You don't test capacitors. It takes more time to test the capacitor than it does to replace it. And also, if you factor in the age, if this is 1993, that makes these parts 25 years old. They have reached the end of their expected lifespan for that type of part. These are common, inexpensive, medium quality capacitors, or maybe even low quality capacitors, but it's the cost of parts compared to the effort and labor involved. It would be like if you took your car to the shop for a tune-up and they said, oh, well, you know, man, we looked at your spark plugs and we only replaced 2 of them because the other 6 are fine. But the car has got 50,000 miles on it and the spark plug should be changed. You probably would slap the guy and never go back. This is an incomplete repair and it's substandard. Don't accept substandard repairs. When you're going to have your set repaired, whether it's here where you'll get a good job, I hope, or somebody else or a local guy, ask him or them, what are you going to do? How thorough is it going to be? Are you going to replace 2 and leave 7 30-year-old parts in here or 25-year-old parts? If he says, yes, ma'am, because we're going to test the capacitors, and if they test fine, we're going to leave them, you should go. You should turn around and walk out the door and find somebody else, because this annoys me. This customer is being hugely inconvenienced, and it's costing him extra money because the shop that worked on this the first time did a substandard job, and they didn't even put in the right part. It's not like it's some weird part from Mars that's really hard to get. When we buy them 100 at a time, and we always have lots of them, and there's no excuse for putting in the wrong part. Don't accept substandard and incomplete repairs. That's my rant for the day. I'm back. So the repair of the customer's IMA 4006 has been completed. I wanted to show you at the end how it ended up. So here are the 2 components that the other shop replaced a year ago. This one, the large one, being the wrong value. This is all the work that they did, and it's no wonder that it only lasted for about a year. Here's what we did, or I'm sorry, here's what I did. Here are all the parts that I replaced. Now, granted, 2 of these are these, so this should be in this pile because the incorrect part and this one, they were taken out even though they're a year old and replaced with new parts, so everything is up to the way that I normally do it. This is what it takes to rebuild a 4006 at a minimum. This set didn't have any kind of weird, strange problems or anything like that. It was all pretty ordinary, it was all pretty typical, and it was all pretty straightforward to do. This is what you should get when you have your 4006 rebuilt. That way, when it comes back to you and you reinstall it, you won't be talking to the fella who did the repair realistically 10, 15 years or so. Maybe a little longer, maybe a little less, hard to say, but certainly not a year. So the moral of the video is don't accept poorly repaired equipment, don't accept partially repaired equipment, get it done thoroughly, get it done right, and be done with it. You'll save money in the long run to have it done correctly the first time. I always tell people when I talk to them on the phone, the fellow that taught me a lot about doing this, a fellow named Jerry, he used to say, you only get one chance to fix it right the first time. And Jerry was a master at being a NuTone service center, and he was a master of repair. His repairs were the best. And we try to be a lot like Jerry around here because that's what customers expect. That's what customers really want, even if they don't know it. And that way, everything just rolls along and the sets get done and we move on to the next one. I hope you found this video to be interesting, perhaps enlightening, and hopefully a little bit helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube because that always helps. If you like our videos, there'll be a banner right here. It shows you how to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell or on the wheel, put in your email address, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification so you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.